What? What did the Ravens do? What did the Raiders do? Jesus.
Oh, man.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL podcast. Here it's Tuesday on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That means you got me, Luke Braun at Luke Braun NFL, a very angry Vikings fan, and a very happy Saints fan, Ross Jackson.
Joyous.
Celebrating. And we are here to talk to you about all the goings on in the NFL, but really we want to talk about the chaotic, ridiculous,
How are you so calm right now?
It's sedatives, actually. I'm heavily sedated because I had to be to put sentences together after that Ravens-Raiders game. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about Darren Waller. We'll talk about Manning Night Football, and all the crazy stuff. It's also Tuesday, which means it's fantasy day here on the Locked On NFL podcast. So we got the Tuesday Fantasy Forum coming up later for you as well with Kate Majuk. But first, let's get into that Ravens-Raiders game. I want to start with the end. Can we start with the end?
We have to.
What happened?
Oh, my goodness.
Who missed it?
So first of all, we should say that this game started off pretty slow, right? And then at the end of this game, toward the second half, things started getting back. You have these two teams by the end of regulation tied 27-27. They go into overtime, and the Raiders start with the ball. They end up getting all the way down to the 1 yard line. They can't score. And then they end up throwing this interception off of a Ravens defender's head. I believe it went through the hands of Willie Snead, former New Orleans Saint. So that was really interesting for me. And then the Ravens can't score. They fumble, and Lamar Jackson gives the ball up. Then my favorite part of all of this is that the Raiders end up getting in field goal range. They run a little play, kind of get the ball on the hash where the kicker likes it, all these things. Then they watch the field goal unit out there without a very key component of the field goal unit, the kicker. And because of that, they end up having to not take a timeout, Luke, but take a false start because they don't have any timeouts left.
Yeah, they had none left.
It pushes them back 5 yards, and then the Raiders come out and say, okay, well, we'll run another play and then we'll get the field goal unit out. And the Ravens perhaps thought, hey, they're just going to run it, get it all set up. They send the house.
And I want to talk about that.
Yo, absolutely. And Zay Jones is wide open for the ending of the most chaotic Monday Night Football game I think I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I want to talk about that cover zero. And the only reason I knew to really look for this was because Peyton Manning called it out in the Manning cast, which was awesome.
Manning Night Football, baby.
He and Eli were talking about cover zero, which is when you don't have any deep safeties, and usually it means a lot of people are blitzing. So it's this kind of all or nothing defense. It's just throw the house at Derek Carr, and it's either a big play your way or a big play their way, and it's the risk reward you take. And the Ravens were like crazy aggressive. They were running cover zero all night, and basically every huge play the Raiders had, they were figuring out cover zero. They were figuring out these blitzes. And so I think for the Ravens and their coaching staff and just the overall decision making here, you have to question why they kept going back to this. I don't think there's anything wrong with cover zero in a vacuum. It's a all out blitz, it's a really aggressive play. And sometimes you get home, sometimes you get don't. That's the chance you take. But it was very clear that the Raiders had their counters to this, and their counters were working. And you just kind of kept letting them go back to that especially in the biggest moments of the game. And then it turns out you bust a coverage in that cover zero. Somebody gets beat because you only got two guys in coverage because you
right. And then they ran into each other. So
and they walk you off.
So is this an example of a team getting sort of handcuffed by its own identity in a way of not being malleable enough to the game situation?
Maybe, yeah, and I'm not as well versed. I mean, you have to go listen to Locked On Ravens for, I think, more in depth, looks at the Ravens. I don't know if this is their identity or if this was just their game plan for Derek Carr, put Derek Carr under pressure. But Derek Carr did a phenomenal job working that pocket when there was pressure. His accuracy was really, really spotty as the night started, but as it wore on, he got a little better. He found his open people. He leaned heavily on Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller ended up with like a quarter of the Raiders' entire passing game.
Yeah, he had 10 catches, 101 yards and a touchdown. The last that I saw, 105 yards and a touchdown with a long of 24. Just a huge, and he was targeted 19 times. So they really went after him. That was 19 out of 56 passes thrown by Derek Carr in this matchup. So big time attention to Darren Waller. And why not? Why not? You saw what happened when you threw to Willie Snead, right? Exactly. You saw what happened when you threw to Willie Snead.
Have? Yeah.
I mean, you had
Renfro,
Hunter Renfro, who had a nice, big yards after catch moment. He stepped out of bounds, by the way, but it's all good because they didn't score on that drive anyway. It was a drive later that they ended up scoring.
That was the drive where they went down to about this far, about an inch away. And
then they had the false start penalty.
And then threw twice, and then that was the dome interception. Like the Raiders are just weavers of fate and agents of chaos. It feels like the only way. It's like if Doctor Strange was going through all the different timelines, and there's one where they win, and it was this one.
This episode, this game could have several episodes of What If attached to it, right? What if they would have just run the ball? What if the Ravens didn't shift? What if the Ravens didn't play cover zero? Like, there's just so many here. What just an incredibly remarkable way to put a bow tie on week one of the NFL season with this game. And we're going to talk more about this game as well as Manning Night Football as we continue on with today's episode. Week one is now in the books, but the odds for next week, week two, games beginning in just a couple of days on Thursday, are already up with our good friends over at BetOnline.ag. They have all the props, all the odds, all the contests that you want to be a part of if you want to get in on the action. A couple of lines already up for you to go and check out that are already pretty interesting. Seattle -5.5 against the Tennessee Titans. Hey, New Orleans -3 on the road dogs. I don't know about you. I always get nervous about road favorites. I always get a little nervous about road favorites for sure. But hey,
I've been burned.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater did it this week. So hey, sometimes it works out. So if you want to get in on any of that action, the MLB, of course, with the playoffs right around the corner, or even your favorite Vegas casino games, they got you taken care of over at BetOnline.ag. Just make sure you use that promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to get that 100% welcome bonus right now over at BetOnline.ag. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
All right, Ross, I want to keep talking about the Ravens here because the Ravens are such an interesting team. We'll get to the fantasy forum in a little bit too. So if you want some fantasy advice, stick around. But let me talk about Lamar Jackson because it feels almost criminal that Lamar Jackson doesn't come home with a W in this game.
Oh, man.
This was an incredible performance. I remember when we were talking, when the Ravens were on Monday Night Football a couple times last year, and you and I broke those games down. And I remember we were talking like, is Lamar okay? Like, what's wrong with him? Right. There were so many times, and they made the playoffs. They had a fine year, but he just didn't seem the same. He didn't seem like that. He didn't seem loose. He seemed a little tight. And in this game, he was just playing. He seemed loose.
Oh, yeah.
And credit to the Ravens or to the Raiders who did a really good job of keeping the Ravens kind of off their rhythm and keeping Lamar Jackson in improvisational situations. And look, if you're going to go into an improv situation, Lamar Jackson is like a top 3 guy that you would want, maybe a top 2 guy, maybe just Mahomes is the guy you'd want more. And that's great. But even the best at improv is not going to be preferable to being on schedule, doing the things you meant to do and the things you planned. And the Raiders did a really good job of keeping him off that. And just an absolute heroic effort from Lamar Jackson. Looked like 2019 MVP Lamar Jackson. I am so excited to watch this dude for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And the thing that was really great was how Lamar Jackson was able to do this despite the fact that the Raiders were living in zone coverage throughout this game, which usually it's a little bit tougher for a mobile quarterback to run against zone coverage because everybody's looking at him, right? Everybody's playing their zones. Everybody's watching the quarterback's eyes, all of that. If you're a mobile quarterback, you want to force that defense into man coverage, which we saw the Ravens do a lot and sometimes to their own detriment. But we didn't see that a ton from the Raiders. They stayed in that zone coverage. And so Lamar Jackson had all the opportunities available to him to be able to play and do what it is that he does. A little bit of that backyard kind of schoolyard football that he is so famous for. And it was great to see him do that. However, 2 fumbles in this game, 2 turnovers in this game, and the last one doing the team in effectively, but the last one not being on a scramble or anything like that, just simply got sacked. Max Crosby had an incredible game here, constantly in the backfield. There was one play to where it got whistled dead and he still knocked an offensive lineman over. It was fantastic watching this defensive line led by Max Crosby, with the defensive line, by the way, who made a 4th overall selection, Cleveland Farrell, a healthy scratch in this game. Another storyline to listen into your boy Q.
There.
Yeah, a little bit down there.
He's going to have
a lot to say over Locked On Raiders for sure. He might still be talking about it on the Friday episode of Locked On NFL as well. But yes, no, I completely agree with you. It is a little bit of a shame for Lamar Jackson here, who had a fantastic game, but those fumbles, the turnovers there effectively did them in as well.
Yeah, and Max Crosby lining up for most of the game across from longtime league mainstay Alejandro Villanueva, who was a big free agent pickup for the Ravens, but there was this whole thing in camp that he didn't look good in camp. So that's a big point of concern for the Ravens. That kind of carried over into meaningful football. Yeah,
and that came after that signing for Villanueva came after the trade where they sent Orlando Brown to the Chiefs.
Who also struggled, by the way.
Right. Oh, big time. I mean, there was that one time where Patrick Mahomes just got sandwiched by a couple of guys. Yeah. Not great. So you had all that. The other thing that I wanted to mention, too, was, this was also a team, the Baltimore Ravens, that just riddled by injuries, marred by injuries over the course of the offseason.
Especially the running back stepped up.
Yes, and that's exactly it. Latavius Murray getting into the end zone, former New Orleans Saint. Tyson Williams was fantastic in this matchup as well. Somebody that they were able to continuously target out of the backfield, and also had a big run on a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1. And, the type of a situation to where you have a defense that's going to end up clamping down, but if you can break through, you're going to get to the house. And that's exactly what you saw from him. So shout out to this Baltimore Ravens coaching staff for continuing to be able to lean in on the run game, despite all of the losses at the running back position that they had throughout the offseason.
Here's my overall takeaway from this game, and it's weird because it doesn't match the result of the game, and the Raiders won, and the Raiders deserve to win, and I'm not trying to say otherwise, but if I'm preparing for week 2, I'd be much more afraid if my opponent were the Ravens. They just looked so dangerous. And the Raiders, as well as they played, with as much heart as they played with, and I think they won because of all that heart, I'm not afraid of Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow. I'm afraid
Zay
of Lamar
Jones.
Jackson. I triple team Darren Waller and watch the offense fall apart. I don't know. And the Ravens didn't do that. I think that was a huge mistake. They decided to blitz, put pressure on Derek Carr, and Derek Carr was up to that occasion. I don't think that was the game plan. And I think that earns the Raiders like a well-earned W, right?
Yeah.
You were challenged by a team. You answered that call. You get your win. For the rest of the season, I have to wonder what defensive coordinators are going to do against the oops all Darren Waller offense that the Raiders put out tonight.
Right. I think you're right about being more afraid of the Ravens than you should be afraid of the Raiders if they're your next opponent. However, the next opponent is the Kansas City Chiefs. During Monday Night Football, Travis Kelce got a free scouting report from Peyton Manning all game. So does that really matter? And then he went on to get a free scouting report on the team that he'll face twice this season in the Las Vegas Raiders as well. How fun was Monday Night Football? But he didn't know that it was the Ravens.
No, he thought he was going up against the Chargers week 2 and had to be corrected by Peyton Manning, who knew his own schedule better than he did. No, Manning Night Football was so much fun. And there was such a phenomenal. There was such a casual vibe to it. And the analysis was a little bit more hardcore. If you're not comfortable with them talking about, cover 3 beaters and 3-by-1 formations and stuff, and if that's not the way you want to experience football, stick to the main broadcast, you'll be fine. But if you want to get a little bit deeper into what's going on with football, and also just the casual laid back, the regular broadcasts have such a kind of suit and tie, really buttoned up, polished vibe. And sometimes that can get boring, especially in slower games. But this was a slow game for the first half, but because of Peyton and Eli and the chaos of fire alarms.
I was going to say, you know what else the main broadcast didn't have? Fire alarms.
And helmets that were too small for Peyton Manning's head and all sorts of other chaos. It kept it entertaining, but it also
over headset.
it also showed what's interesting about even the boring games where you can kind of play
Right.
and say, okay, that's the mistake that he made against this coverage. This is the thing. Here's a time when Alabama pulled this against Ohio State, and this is what they're doing now and all that. And that is so interesting. And I think it is a great alternate to the sort of stodgy, buttoned up broadcasts that all kind of blend together and are the same nowadays. I think that the ESPN might be onto something that has a chance to at least provide a new way to experience football. I think that matters to every fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, Monday Night Football is going to be here 10 games this year, including up next week, the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. It's a great option for the hardcore football fan, just like we're a great option for the hardcore football fan here at Locked On NFL. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Kate Majuk of Locked On Dynasty Football for you hardcore fantasy football fans to get you your fantasy forum. What matchup should you want to take advantage of next week? Which players had big performances? And who's the waiver wire steal is that you should be checking out? I thought this was a really interesting answer because Kate pivots from where everyone else is saying to go. So it's really, really good stuff. We're going to have that coming up for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On NFL. For the hardcore football fan, we're here for you. For the hardcore auto parts customer, there's only one place for you, rockauto.com. That was a pretty neat one. So that was really nice. Go and check them out over at rockauto.com. Whatever parts, pieces, or accessories you need, whatever make, model, or year your vehicle is, they have you covered. Same parts that you can get at the chain store around the corner, but with no having to, end up leaving your house at all, and at cheaper prices as well. Same parts, cheaper prices, not cheaper parts for the same price. Very important delineation over with rockauto.com. And of course, they're a family business as well. Been helping auto parts customers online for over 20 years. So go and show them some love. And when you do, make sure you show us some love as well by writing Locked On in the How'd You Hear About Us section at checkout. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. And I want to tell you about DirecTV Stream as well. You've seen them. You've seen the commercials. Serena Williams, Wonder Woman. Fantastic content, just like you get here. But yeah, mix it all up. I do love DirecTV Stream, though. I'm a new customer of DirecTV Stream myself. This is a true story, and I absolutely love it because it is really, really seamless, and I like it a lot. Instead of having to switch from this app to this app and this device to this device and juggling remotes, juggling all these things, you don't have to do that. DirecTV Stream gets you set up to where you have all of your favorite movies, your favorite sports, or your favorite TV shows all in one place. Helps you get your TV together, which is something I very much needed. Now I'll start working on getting my life together as well. But I wanted to start with the TV first, and DirecTV Stream absolutely helped me do that. So make sure you go and check them out and get all the information that you need. Best of all, no annual contract needed when it comes to DirecTV Stream. You get more information at directtv.com. That is directtv.com. Compatible device is required and content varies by package.
All right, everybody, moving on here with this Tuesday episode of the Locked On NFL podcast. And that means that it's time for the Tuesday Fantasy Forum. Bringing in Kate Majuk this time all the way over in the East Coast. What's going on, Kate?
Hey, it's Central Time now. I'm
that's right.
I'm officially a Houstonite. I'm officially a Texan, but I'm not going to align myself with that franchise. So I'm feeling a little skittish around the word Texan. If you guys have any suggestions on what I should call myself, hey, they did spank 1-0 yesterday.
Bandwagon, let's go.
1-0. Oh, I'm ready. I just submitted my request for season tickets. We're ready to roll.
Nice.
So whose bandwagon are we jumping on then? Let's talk about some week one big performers.
Oh my gosh, we had a lot of really fun surprises in week one. First one, we got a shout out. I'm just going to do this for Ross here. Jameis Winston completed 14 passes for 148 yards. LASIK Winston, he's looking 2020, baby. He is 5 touchdowns, even added some carries on the ground, 37 yards rushing to help his fantasy day. Leading into Monday Night Football, which is, we're recording this just before the matchup, Jameis Winston is currently the quarterback 3 on the week behind only Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes, which is fantastic. I will say pretty impressive from an efficiency standpoint, especially given the fact that, they weren't working with a ton of weapons, but I mean, the Packers had all but rolled over into a grave at that matchup. I don't necessarily expect Jameis Winston to be quite as efficient, but I do think we are seeing an improved Jameis Winston with an improved coaching staff and apparently improved vision. I'm so excited for Jameis Winston because
You can see the field.
he's going to be a huge waiver wire pickup, and you know that his upside is still pretty high. Still Jameis Winston.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And certainly the New Orleans Saints aren't going to do anything to put any kind of a ceiling on him at all, but certainly try to raise the floor a bit with his efficiency. You talked about him being a waiver wire pickup. Any other big waiver wire pickups that you're looking at that folks should run to their wires to grab?
I'm actually going to pivot a little bit because I know the world is pivoting to the waiver wire for my good friend, my fantastic friend, Elijah Mitchell, who just had a awesome week one running back for the San Francisco 49ers.
You're making
Raheem
a lot of
Mostert.
Louisiana hearts happy today. I just want you to know that.
I'm doing my very best, guys. I got to play to the audience.
Immediately betraying Texas.
It's funny when you said, what else should I call myself if not a Texan? I was going to say neighbor to Louisiana. So here you go.
There we go. I don't hate it. I'm open to all of the infinite possibilities. Elijah Mitchell absolutely broke out. We saw Trey Sermon was a surprise scratch yesterday after Kyle Shanahan just kind of came out and said, oh, yeah, like Elijah Mitchell took the job basically. There were plenty of running backs available, but boom, Raheem Mostert goes down with a knee injury after just 2 carries in true Raheem Mostert fashion. He is going to be out, looks like about 8 weeks. So I want to review their depth chart here. We've got Raheem Mostert going on IR. He's planned to be out for 8 weeks. We still have Jeff Wilson Jr. recovering from an injury last season, who started the season on the PUP. I'm actually going to pivot and go with Trey Sermon, who I think most people are going to be off just because of the fact that, we just had this inactive. He was a healthy scratch. I think that's going to be off-putting for a lot of managers, and especially in a league where maybe use free agent acquisition budget, those fab leagues. I think Trey Sermon's going to be an upside option with just incredible value in comparison to what people are going to be dropping on Elijah Mitchell after that 100 rushing yard burger he dropped.
So I have to, this is the part of the fantasy forum where I'm bad at fantasy and I need help. So I've got a Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry thing going. Is it time to panic on that? Or are the Titans like doomed, or should I like hold fast and hope they turn it around? Because that was a rough one from those two guys.
It was, I do have the stack there in a couple leagues. I don't usually go for the quarterback running back stack, but I felt pretty good with this particular matchup going into this week. Turns out none of us should have felt all that comfortable with this matchup this week, but Ryan Tannehill, I think we're expecting some bumps, some bruises. I think this is a team that will bounce back in terms of their overall efficiency. I'm not panicking at this point because we know the upside. We've seen them have this track record over and over again. We just know what they are. Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. Just throw it out the window. Start back, fresh slate. Let's go.
Chalk it up to week one weirdness and let it go.
Week one weirdness, like you don't. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they all played. I don't think any of them played preseason. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's right.
But all of that sort of factors in. I feel like we always see these some more low scoring affairs in week one as offenses just look to get that chemistry back. It just takes a minute. So we'll give them a break. Obviously, if the trend continues, we gotta hit the pause button there. But I do think we're let's not overreact just yet. We still got Julio Jones, which does make the team puts a bid in for more efficiency in my book. until proven otherwise.
I will say Julio Jones dropping a pass in the end zone. So some things just never change. Some things just never change. And much like some
feeling himself today.
Much like some things, it never changed, Kate. It never changes. We are always very, very excited to have you here. Appreciate you coming through. You can find Kate and the rest of the gang over at Locked On Dynasty Football every Monday through Friday. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter at FFBallBlast as well. Kate, thanks for coming through.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Locked On NFL. Make sure you come back for Tony and James tomorrow. They're going to be going over the Locked On NFL power rankings all across the Locked On NFL channel. We got all of our experts in to vote on the power rankings, so you're going to get that update from Tony and James tomorrow. And we also want to make sure you check out the Locked On Bets podcast. Go and win yourself some money with your boy Q, who might be in a bit of a mood tomorrow. He'll be very happy. And we'll also have Lee Sterling there as well, handicapping expert. For Luke Braun at Luke Braun NFL, I'm Ross Jackson at Ross Jackson. Nola, we appreciate you very much for being here. And we'll see you again here soon for another episode of Locked On NFL, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.